The ICU smelled of bleach and desperation when Kang Min-Jae's father lifted a trembling hand and rasped 4 words that would detonate his entire existence. "I want her son." Min-Jae followed the shaking finger to a woman in a faded cleaning uniform pushing a mop cart between the beds. Dark skin, exhausted eyes, and hands that moved with surprising tenderness as she paused to straighten a patient's blanket. "Want her for what, Abioji?" he asked, his voice low. His father's breath rattled, but his stare was steel. "For you. Before I mash. I need to know you felt something real. Just once." And just like that, the man who controlled half of Seoul's underground through violence and calculation felt something he'd buried at 19. Fear. Not of bullets or betrayal, but of whatever was cracking open inside his chest. Before we begin, don't forget to like this video, hit subscribe, and comment where you're watching from. Now, let's get started. The ventilator in room 347 of Seoul Medical Center hissed its mechanical rhythm at 2:17 a.m. Kang Min-Jae sat motionless in the visitor's chair, his tailored Armani jacket draped over the armrest, neck tattoos visible where he'd loosened his collar. At 34, he owned shipping channels that trafficked everything customs didn't search for, entertainment districts where cash vanished into legitimate ledgers, and men who would die on his word. But none of that power could stop the cancer eating through his father's liver. Hepatocellular carcinoma. Stage 4. The oncologist had given Kang Dae-hyun 3 weeks. That was 5 days ago. "Min-Jae," his father whispered in Korean, the oxygen mask misting with each word. "I'm here." Min-Jae leaned forward, his expression carved from stone. His father's gaze drifted past him toward the hallway. A woman in a gray cleaning uniform was spraying disinfectant on a supply cart, her movements slow but methodical. Her hair was wrapped in a colorful fabric, her dark skin catching the harsh fluorescent light. She wasn't singing, but her lips moved slightly, like she was praying or talking to herself as she worked. "That one," Dae-hyun said, his finger lifting with effort. "I want her." Min-Jae's jaw tightened. Seoul was full of beautiful women who threw themselves at men with money and danger. "Want her for what, Abioji?" His father turned his head, and Min-Jae saw something he hadn't seen since his mother's funeral 15 years ago. Desperation. "For you. I'm dying, boy. Before I go, I need to see you capable of something other than cruelty. That you can choose life instead of death. Abioji, please." "Look at her." Dae-hyun's grip was surprisingly strong. "Really look." The woman had moved closer now, pushing her cart past their room. She paused at the elderly man's bed across the hall, the one with no family, and gently adjusted his pillow. Spoke to him in broken Korean. The old man smiled for the first time in days. "You see," his father whispered, "she's homeless. Has nothing. But she still gives. That's what you need. Not another transaction. Not another weapon." Min-Jae's throat tightened. "This is insane. Promise me you'll try. Promise me you won't become what I became. A monster who dies alone because he was too afraid to be weak." The woman knocked softly on their door frame, a courtesy most staff skipped at this hour. Her Korean was hesitant, but sincere. "Excuse me? I clean? Or come back?" Dae-hyun's eyes lit up despite his pain.
No, please. Come in."
His English was rough but functional. "You work hard. Late night." She smiled, and Min-Jae saw what his father meant. It wasn't beauty, exactly. It was authenticity. "Yes, sir. But I'm grateful. This job, it helps me." "What's your name?" Dae-hyun asked.
Nia.
"Nia Amari."
Nia.
Beautiful name. His father glanced at Min-Jae, with meaning. "My son, he is successful businessman. Very lonely." Min-Jae felt heat crawl up his neck. "Abioji, she's working." But Nia's expression had shifted. Not flirtatious.
"Sut.
"Loneliness is the hardest disease," she said quietly, looking at Dae-hyun but clearly speaking about Min-Jae. "Money can't cure it. Only people can. But first, you have to let them see you." Something in Min-Jae's chest, something calcified and cold, fractured. Just slightly. After Nia moved to the next room, his father's breathing became more labored. I want her for you. Make it happen. This isn't some deal you can broker, old man. Everything is a deal, Min-Jae. I taught you that. Dae-hyun's smile was weak but knowing. But this one? You negotiate with your soul, not your strategy. Min-Jae watched Nia through the doorway as she knelt to pick up trash someone had dropped, as she offered a bottle of water to a stressed family member, as she moved through the ward like proof that goodness could survive in broken places. For the first time since he'd ordered his first execution at 19, Kang Min-Jae considered doing something that might destroy him. He considered obeying his father's dying wish. He considered walking up to that homeless woman and asking her to save him from himself. Dae-hyun died at 4:47 a.m., but not before calling Min-Jae closer one final time. The morphine drip had been increased, blurring the edges of his father's pain, but his grip on Min-Jae's wrist was iron. You think I'm delirious, Dae-hyun whispered, his voice rattling like stones in a jar. Dying old man making crazy demands. I think you're tired, Abog. Rest.
No.
His father's eyes sharpened, burning through the medication haze. Listen, you were 19 when I made you into this. 19 when I taught you that everything is leverage, everyone is either asset or a threat. I turned you into the perfect weapon. Min-Jae's jaw tightened. You taught me to survive. I taught you to win. Dae-hyun coughed, blood flecking his lips. But I forgot to teach you to live. That's my failure. My sin. His hand trembled as he pointed toward the hallway where Nia had disappeared. That woman out there. She is nothing. No money, no power, no protection. But she smiled at a dying stranger. She adjusted a pillow for a man who can't pay her. You know what that is. Weakness, Min-Jae said automatically. Humanity. His father's laugh was bitter. I spent 30 years building this empire on fear. Died with wealth beyond measure. And tonight, a homeless woman showed me more grace than anyone in my organization ever did. You know why? Min-Jae stayed silent. Because she hasn't negotiated away her soul yet. Because she understands something we forgot. Life isn't just a series of transactions. It's supposed to mean something. Dae-hyun's breathing grew more labored. You want to honor me? Then prove I didn't just create a monster. Prove there's still something human left in you. You're asking me to marry a stranger. I'm asking you to try. Not a business deal, Min-Jae. Not a contract with exit clauses and profit margins. A real negotiation, the kind that scares you. The kind where you risk your heart, not your territory. Min-Jae looked away, his throat tight. What if I can't? What if there's nothing left in me worth giving? Min-Jae found Nia 2 hours later in the hospital's basement laundry room, folding linens that other people had bled on, vomited on, died in. The industrial washers roared around them, steam thick in the air. She didn't hear him approach, didn't sense the danger standing 6 feet behind her, which told him everything about how exhausted she must be. Nia Amari, he said in English. She spun, dropping a pillowcase. Her eyes went wide when she recognized him, but not with fear. Surprise, maybe.
Concern.
Mr. Kang. I'm so sorry about your father. He seemed like a good man. Min-Jae blinked. In his world, people either cowered or postured. No one offered simple condolences. You spoke to him for 3 minutes. 3 minutes is enough to see someone's heart. She bent to retrieve the fallen linen, and he noticed her hands were raw, cracked from chemicals. He loved you very much. That was clear. He made a request before he died. Min-Jae stepped closer, studying her. Up close, she was younger than he'd thought. Mid-20s, maybe. Her exhaustion ran bone deep, but her eyes were alert, intelligent. He asked me to get to know you. Nia's laugh was soft, sad. Your father was kind, but confused. Men like you don't know women like me. We exist in different universes. Men like me? Powerful. Protected. The kind who've never had to choose between rent and food. She resumed folding, her movements precise despite her fatigue. I'm homeless, Mr. Kang. I sleep in a shelter 3 blocks from here, when I can get a bed. Otherwise, the subway. I'm not ashamed of it, but I'm also not stupid. We have nothing in common. Most people would have lied, Min-Jae thought. Pretended to be something more. You're right. We have nothing in common. But my father saw something in you that he wanted me to see. And he died asking me to try. Nia stopped folding, turned to face him fully. Try what, exactly? To know you. To let you know me. The words felt foreign in his mouth. Vulnerable. I don't know how to do this. I've spent 15 years being a weapon. But he believed there was something human left in me, and that you could find it. She studied him with those clear eyes, and Min-Jae felt stripped bare in a way no interrogation had ever managed. You have tattoos on your neck, she said quietly. Expensive suit. Men who look like bodyguards waiting upstairs. You're not a businessman, are you? Not the legal kind.
No.
And you think someone like me would want to be involved in that world? I think, Min-Jae said carefully, that you're the first person in years to look at me like I'm human. Not a boss. Not a monster. Just a man who made a promise to his dying father and has no idea how to keep it. Nia's expression softened. She set down the linens and crossed her arms, but not defensively, thoughtfully. What would getting to know me even look like? Coffee, maybe. Conversation. Learning who you are when you're not folding hospital sheets at dawn. I can't afford coffee. I can. That's the problem, Mr. Kang. You can afford everything, which means nothing between us would ever be equal. You'd always have the power. Min-Jae felt something crack wider in his chest. Then teach me how to make it equal. Because right now you're the only one in this room who knows how to be human. And I'm the one who needs to learn. For a long moment, Nia said nothing. Then she smiled, small but genuine. 1 coffee.
Nobody gets.
No power plays. Just 2 people talking.
Can you do that?
I don't know, Min-Jae admitted. But I'll try. Then I'll try too. I'll see that too. And maybe that truth is what you need. Dae-hyun's grip loosened, his strength finally failing. But I don't believe it. I saw how you looked at her. Like she was something you'd forgotten existed. Hope, maybe. Or just proof that not everything beautiful in this world is for sale. The monitors began their steady decline. Dae-hyun's eyes drifted closed, then snapped open one last time. Promise me. Before it's too late. Promise me you'll negotiate with your heart. Min-Jae's voice cracked. I promise to be OG. Good. Then I can rest. His father smiled, peaceful for the first time in months. Go find her. Before you lose your nerve. At 4:47 a.m., Kang Dae-hyun exhaled his last breath, leaving his son alone with an impossible promise and the terrifying realization that he had no idea how to keep it. The cafe Nia chose was in Itaewon, wedged between a laundromat and a convenience store. Plastic chairs, fluorescent lighting, and coffee that cost less than Min-Jae's socks. He'd sent his driver away 3 blocks back, walked the rest alone, and now sat across from her feeling more exposed than he had in years. You look uncomfortable, Nia said, wrapping her hands around a paper cup of instant coffee. I'm not used to places without exit strategies. Min-Jae glanced at the single door, the window facing the street. Vulnerable. Or security. You mean you're not used to being normal? She took a sip, watching him over the rim. This is where regular people live, Mr. Kang. No one's going to attack you over bad coffee. Min-Jae. Just Min-Jae here. Okay. Just Min-Jae. She leaned back, studying him. So, tell me, what does a man like you actually do? And please don't insult me with the import-export line. He'd prepared deflections, practiced evasions. But something about her directness made lying feel worse than honesty. I control territory. Shipping channels, entertainment districts, protection networks. My organization moves goods that bypass customs. We launder money through legitimate businesses. We solve problems for people who can't go to the police. You're a criminal. I operate in gray areas. Nia laughed, sharp and unexpected. Gray areas. That's beautiful. You know what I call gray areas? Lies we tell ourselves to sleep at night. She set down her cup. Do you hurt people? Min-Jae's jaw tightened. Sometimes. Kill them. When necessary. And you sleep fine after?
No.
The admission surprised him. I don't sleep much at all. Her expression shifted, something like sympathy crossing her face. At least you're honest about it. That's more than most powerful men manage. She stirred her coffee absently. You want to know something about me? I left Chicago because my brother was killed in a gang shooting.
Crossfire.
Wrong place, wrong time. He was 16. Min-Jae felt ice in his stomach.
I'm sorry.
Are you? Because men who operate in gray areas are the reason my brother's dead. Men who decided their territory, their money, their pride was worth more than a kid walking home from school. You're right. The words scraped his throat. You're absolutely right. I'm exactly the kind of man who creates the world that killed your brother. So, why did you agree to have coffee with me? Nia was quiet for a long moment, her fingers tracing the rim of her cup. Because your father saw something in you worth saving. And because when you looked at me in that laundry room, you weren't pretending to be something you're not. You were just broken. And I know what broken looks like. I don't know if I can be fixed. I don't know if you can either. She met his eyes. But here's what I do know. You walked 3 blocks without your security. You're sitting in a cafe that probably offends everything you're used to. You admitted you're a criminal to a woman you barely know. That's not a monster talking. That's someone who's tired of being one. Min-Jae felt something shift in his chest. Not healing exactly. More like the first painful breath after being underwater too long. What if I can't change? What if this is all I am? Then at least you'll know you tried. That's more than most people manage.
Nia stood, slinging her bag over her shoulder.
Same time tomorrow? There's a worse cafe 2 streets over. Even cheaper coffee. You want to see me again? I want to see if you show up, she said. Without the suit. Without the armor. Just the man who made a promise to his dying father. She paused at the door. And Min-Jae? Stop calling it gray areas. Own what you are. That's the first step to becoming something different. She left him sitting there with cold coffee and a truth he couldn't hide from anymore. Min-Jae sat in that cheap cafe long after Nia left, turning her words over in his mind like stones. Own what you are. The memory came unbidden, pulling him back 3 days, to the night before his father's final request. It had been 11 p.m. when the alarm started screaming in room 347. Dae-hyun's fever had spiked to 104, his body rejecting the antibiotics, infection ravaging what the cancer hadn't already claimed. The nurses moved with efficient panic, but Min-Jae saw it in their eyes. They were losing him. Then Nia had appeared in the doorway, still in her cleaning uniform, technically off-duty. She'd stepped past the nurses without permission, picked up a cloth, and began wiping Dae-hyun's burning forehead with cool water. Ma'am, you can't, a nurse started. Let her, Min-Jae had said, his voice dangerous enough that no one argued. Nia worked in silence, her movements gentle, deliberate. She spoke to Dae-hyun in soft English, words Min-Jae could barely hear over the monitors. You're strong. You're fighting. Your son is here. He loves you. You're not alone. His father's breathing had steadied, just slightly. His eyes, delirious with fever, found Nia's face and held there. My son, Dae-hyun whispered in broken English. He is lost.
No.
Nia adjusted his pillow, her touch careful around the 4 lines. He's right here. He hasn't left your side. Lost inside. Dae-hyun's hand trembled, reaching for nothing. I made him cold. Made him weapon. My fault. Min-Jae had started to stand, to leave, unable to hear this. But Nia caught his eye and shook her head.
Stay.
You can still give him something, Nia said to Daehyun. It's not too late. Fathers and sons. It's never too late while you're both breathing. What I give? I have nothing but blood money. Dirty empire. Give him permission, Nia said simply. Permission to be different than you. Permission to try. Daehyun's eyes had filled with tears. He turned his head, finding Min-Jae in the shadows. You hear her, boy? She speaks truth. Min-Jae's throat had closed. He managed only a nod. For 3 hours, Nia stayed.
She didn't have to.
Her shift had ended. She had nowhere to sleep that night, would likely spend it on a subway train. But she remained, changing cold compresses, adjusting blankets, speaking quietly about nothing and everything. She told Daehyun about Chicago winters, about her grandmother's garden, about the kindness of strangers who'd helped her when she had nothing. And slowly, impossibly, Daehyun's fever broke. At 2 a.m., he'd opened his eyes clearly for the first time in hours and looked at Nia with something like wonder. Then he turned to Min-Jae, and for the first time in 15 years, his father had smiled at him. Not the calculating smile of a boss approving a strategy. A real smile. Peaceful. Hopeful. You see her? Daehyun had whispered in Korean. That's what I want for you. Someone who stays when they don't have to. Someone who sees the human under the monster. That was the night his father decided. The night he chose Nia. Now, sitting in the empty cafe, Min-Jae understood. His father hadn't seen a beautiful woman or a convenient match. He'd seen someone who'd shown more humanity in 3 hours than Min-Jae's entire organization had shown in 15 years. Someone who stayed in the fire when everyone else ran. And his father had smiled, seeing his son finally pay attention to something beyond power and survival. He'd smiled, seeing hope. Min-Jae was still lost in the memory when his phone vibrated. A single word from Kim Jae-sung, his second-in-command. Urgent. 20 minutes later, Min-Jae stood in the back office of one of his nightclubs in Gangnam, watching security footage on Jae-sung's laptop. His blood turned to ice. How long? Min-Jae's voice was deadly calm. 3 days. Since the hospital. Jae-sung's face was grim. He'd been with Min-Jae since the beginning, had helped him survive the violent transition when his father first got sick.
They're not subtle about it.
They want you to know. The footage showed Nia leaving the hospital after her shift. A black sedan followed her to the subway. Another clip showed her at the shelter, 2 men in leather jackets smoking across the street, watching the entrance. A third video captured her at a convenience store, buying cup noodles, while someone photographed her through the window. Park Sung-ho's crew, Min-Jae said. Not a question.
Yes.
He's been circling since your father got sick, waiting to see if you'd show weakness. Now, he thinks he's found it.
Jae-sung lit a cigarette, exhaled slowly.
A homeless woman. No protection.
No connections.
Easy target. Min-Jae's hands curled into fists. Park Sung-ho controlled the ports in Busan, had been trying to expand into Seoul for years. He was ruthless, calculating, and smart enough to know that direct confrontation with Min-Jae would be suicide. But leverage? Leverage was different. What does he want? The shipping routes through Incheon. Your distribution network in Itaewon. Basically, half your empire. Jae-sung pulled up another photo. Nia, walking alone at night, completely unaware of the danger orbiting her. He hasn't made contact yet. He's gathering intel, building a profile. But it's coming. She doesn't know. Should she? Jae-sung's tone was careful. Boss, with respect, your father just died. You've been meeting this woman for coffee. People are talking. The organization is watching. Park Sung-ho is watching. If you care about her, you need to make a choice. What choice? Walk away. Ghost her. Make it clear she means nothing to you. Park will lose interest if he thinks she's worthless as leverage. Jae-sung stubbed out his cigarette. Or bring her into the fold. Protection, security, the full package. But then she's in this world permanently.
There's no going back from that.
Min-Jae stared at the frozen image of Nia on the screen. She was smiling at something, probably being kind to another stranger. Completely innocent. Completely vulnerable. There's a third option, Min-Jae said quietly. Which is, I handle Park Sung-ho before he makes his move. Jae-sung's expression darkened. You're talking about war. Over a woman you've known for less than a week. The organization won't understand. They'll see it as weakness. Other rivals will smell blood. Then let them come. Min-Jae's voice was steel. My father's last request was that I protect her. That I let her show me how to be human. I'm not going to honor that by getting her killed or dragging her into this hell. You can't protect her from a distance. Park's too smart. He'll find a window. Then I'll make sure there are no windows. Min-Jae pulled out his phone. Double the surveillance on Park's operations. I want to know every move he makes. And put a shadow on Nia. Discreet. She doesn't see them. Doesn't know they're there. And when Park realizes you're protecting her, when he confirms she matters, Min-Jae met his second's eyes. Then he'll learn what happens when someone threatens what's mine.
Sie er schon not that so loud.
You know this changes everything. You were the cold one. The calculator. The man who put business above emotion. If they see you willing to go to war over a woman. I know. Min-Jae looked back at Nia's image on the screen. But my father was right. I've been a weapon for 15 years. Maybe it's time to be something else. Let's hope she's worth it. She is, Min-Jae said. And for the first time in his life, he meant it. Min-Jae chose the Han River at sunset, thinking the beauty might soften what he had to do. The water burned gold and orange. Couples walked hand in hand along the path, and Nia sat beside him on the bench, looking more rested than he'd seen her. She'd mentioned getting a bed at the shelter for 3 nights straight. A small victory that made what he was about to do feel even worse. You've been quiet, she said, watching a ferry pass. Usually you at least try to make conversation.
Nia.
He kept his eyes on the water. This can't continue. She turned to him, her expression unreadable. What can't?
Us.
These meetings. My interest in you. The words tasted like poison. My father made a dying request and I honored it. But it was a mistake. We're too different. This was never going to work. Silence stretched between them. A child's laughter carried from the playground nearby, absurdly cheerful against the weight of the moment. You're lying, Nia said finally. I'm not. You're lying. Her voice was calm, almost gentle. I've spent 2 years on the streets, Min-Jae. I know what fear looks like. And you're terrified right now. His jaw tightened. I'm trying to do the right thing. The right thing or the easy thing? She shifted to face him fully. What happened? What changed between yesterday and today? Nothing changed. I realized. Stop. She held up a hand. I grew up in Chicago's South Side. My brother died in gang violence. I know what this world looks like. I know the signs. Her eyes searched his face. Someone's threatening me, aren't they? That's what this is about. Min-Jae's silence was answer enough. So, your solution is to push me away? Make me think you don't care, so they'll leave me alone. Nia laughed, bitter and sad. That's the most arrogant, stupid plan I've ever heard. It will work. If I make it clear you mean nothing. It won't work. She stood, her hands clenched. Because they've already been following me for days. I've seen them. The black sedan. The men outside the shelter. I'm homeless, Min-Jae, not blind. His blood went cold. You knew? Of course I knew. And I also knew you'd eventually try something like this. Try to protect me by cutting me out, making decisions for me like I'm some fragile thing that can't handle the truth. Her voice cracked. My brother died because men like you thought they knew best. Thought they could control situations with violence and lies. And it got him killed anyway. Min-Jae stood, reaching for her. Nia.
No.
She stepped back. You don't get to do this. You don't get to show me pieces of your humanity, make me believe you're trying to change, and then slam the door shut when things get dangerous. That's not protection. That's cowardice. I'm trying to keep you alive. By lying to me? By making me think I was crazy for believing there was something real between us. Tears streamed down her face. You want to protect me? Then tell me the truth. All of it. Let me decide if I want to take the risk. You don't understand what these people are capable of. Then explain it to me. She moved closer, her voice dropping. Teach me.
Prepare me.
Give me the tools to survive in your world. But don't you dare shut me out and call it love. The word hung between them. Love. Neither of them had said it before. Min-Jae felt something break open in his chest. If something happened to you because of me, then that's my choice to make. Nia's hand found his. Your father asked you to let someone see who you really are. That means the fear too. The doubt. The desperation to protect me even if it destroys what we're building. She squeezed his fingers. I see it, Min-Jae. I see all of it. And I'm still here. He looked at her, this woman with nothing who refused to be dismissed, and felt his carefully constructed walls crumble. I don't know how to do this without destroying you. Then we'll figure out together, she said. But no more lies. No more running. If we're doing this, we do it honestly. Deal? Min-Jae pulled her close, his forehead against hers.
Deal.
The river burned gold behind them as the sun finally set. The training started at midnight in a warehouse Min-Jae owned in Seongsadong, empty except for shipping containers and the fluorescent buzz of overhead lights. Nia arrived in borrowed clothes, Jae-sung having picked her up from the shelter in an unmarked car. She looked small in the cavernous space, but her jaw was set with determination. You're sure about this? Min-Jae asked, watching her take in the environment. Once you know these things, you can't unknow them. I've been sure since the river. Nia dropped her bag. Teach me. For the next 2 hours, Min-Jae showed her things he'd never taught anyone outside his organization. How to identify a tail by watching reflections in store windows. How to vary her routes, never establishing predictable patterns. Which public spaces had security cameras, which didn't. The pressure points on a human body where even a weak strike could buy seconds to run. You're not trying to win fights, he said, repositioning her hands. You're trying to survive long enough for help to arrive. Your help. My help. Jae-sung's. The shadows I've assigned to you. He stepped back, letting her practice the defensive stance. But there might be moments when we can't reach you immediately. Those are the moments this is for. Nia's movements were clumsy at first, but she learned quickly. She'd survived 2 years on Seoul's streets. She understood danger in a way most people never would. Why didn't you teach me to shoot? She asked during a water break, nodding toward the gun visible in Min-Jae's shoulder holster. Because guns create more problems than they solve for someone in your position. He sat beside her on a shipping crate. You pull a gun, you better be ready to use it. And if you use it, you're part of this world permanently. There's no going back from taking a life. You've taken lives. Yes. His voice was flat. And I'll never sleep well again. I won't do that to you unless there's no other choice. Nia was quiet for a moment, studying him in the harsh light. You really do see yourself as a monster, don't you? I am a monster.
No.
She touched his face, forcing him to meet her eyes. Monsters don't regret. Monsters don't lose sleep. Monsters don't try to protect people from becoming what they are. Her thumb traced his cheekbone. You're just a man who's done terrible things. That's different. Min-Jae's throat tightened. I don't know if I can change enough. Be enough. You're teaching me to survive in your world instead of locking me away in some safe house. That's already more than enough. She stood, offering her hand. Again. Show me the move where I go for the throat. They trained until 3 a.m., until Nia's muscles shook with exhaustion, and her shirt was dark with sweat. She never complained, never asked to stop. Every time Min-Jae thought she'd had enough, She reset her stance and demanded more. Finally, he called it. That's enough for tonight. You'll be useless tomorrow if you can't move. One more, she insisted. The escape from a rear grab. Min-Jae moved behind her, his arms wrapping around her shoulders in a controlling hold. She was supposed to drop her weight, strike his instep, break free. Instead, she went still. Nia? I'm scared, she whispered. Not of you. Of what's coming. Of not being fast enough or smart enough when it matters. He loosened his grip, turned her to face him. Fear is good. Fear keeps you alert. It's overconfidence that gets people killed. Were you scared? Your first time facing real danger. Terrified. He brushed damp hair from her forehead. I was 19. My father's enemies thought I was weak. I threw up before the meeting where I had to prove them wrong. What happened? I proved them wrong. His smile was grim. But I was still terrified. I'm still terrified now. Every day. Nia leaned into him, her exhaustion finally showing. Thank you for not lying to me. For treating me like I'm strong enough to handle the truth. You're stronger than you know, Min-Jae said. You survived 2 years on these streets alone. My world? You'll survive that too. We'll survive it, she corrected. Together. He held her in that empty warehouse, and for the first time since his father's death, Min-Jae felt something like peace. The call came at 6:47 a.m., 3 days after the warehouse training. Min-Jae was reviewing shipping manifests when his phone lit up with an unknown number. He knew before answering. Knew from the timing, from the cold certainty settling in his gut. Kang Min-Jae. Park Sung-ho's voice was smooth, almost pleasant. I hope I'm not interrupting anything important. Min-Jae's hand tightened on the phone. Where is she?
Direct.
I appreciate that. She's alive, unharmed for now. Quite spirited, actually. She tried to use some interesting defensive techniques when my men grabbed her outside the hospital. You've been training her. How cute. If you touch her. You'll what? Start a war you can't win? Let's not waste time on threats, Min-Jae. We both know how this works. Park's tone hardened. Your shipping routes through Incheon. Your distribution network in Itaewon. Your nightclub holdings in Gangnam. Sign them over to me, and you get your little charity project back in one piece. You're asking for half my empire. I'm asking for what's mine. Your father held this territory through fear and violence, and you've maintained it the same way. But you're weak now. Distracted. Meeting a homeless woman for coffee, like some lovesick college boy.
Park laughed.
Your organization is already whispering. The cold boss has a heart. That makes you vulnerable. That makes everything you built negotiable. Min-Jae closed his eyes, forcing himself to think past the rage. How do I know she's alive?
A pause.
Then Nia's voice, strained but defiant. Min-Jae, don't you dare. The line cut off. You have 24 hours, Park said. Bring the transfer documents to the warehouse in Yongsan.
Come alone.
If I see any of your men, if I even suspect you're planning something, she dies. Slowly. I want proof of life every 6 hours. You're not negotiating, Min-Jae. You're accepting terms. Park's voice dropped to a whisper. Your father built an empire. You have to choose. The empire or the maid. Power or love. What kind of man are you? The line went dead. Min-Jae sat motionless for 30 seconds, his mind processing scenarios, probabilities, outcomes. Then he stood and walked to the adjoining room where Jae-sung was coordinating surveillance. She's gone, Min-Jae said, his voice like ice. Park has her. He wants half the organization. Jae-sung's face went pale. Boss, if you give him that, you'll have nothing. The other families will see weakness. They'll circle like sharks. Everything your father built, everything we've protected. I know. So, what do? Min-Jae looked at the wall map of Seoul, the territories marked in different colors. His empire. 15 years of blood and strategy and ruthless calculation. His father's legacy. His identity. Everything he'd ever been. Then he thought of Nia in that warehouse at 3 a.m., exhausted but refusing to quit. Nia telling him monsters don't regret. Nia seeing the human under the weapon. His father's voice echoed in his memory. Promise me you'll negotiate with your heart, not your head. Get everyone, Min-Jae said quietly. Every soldier, every asset, every favor we're owed. Call in the Yakuza contacts, the Chinese triads we've worked with. I want a tactical assessment of Park's holdings within 2 hours. You're going to war. I'm going to get her back. Min-Jae's eyes were cold, but his hands were steady. Park asked what kind of man I am. He's about to find out. This could destroy everything. Then everything burns. Min-Jae picked up his phone, began scrolling through contacts. But she lives. That's non-negotiable. Jae-sung stared at him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Your father would be proud. Or horrified. Maybe both. Probably both, Min-Jae agreed. Now move. We have 23 hours. The war for Nia Amari had begun. The warehouse in Yongsan burned against the night sky, flames turning concrete into silhouette. Min-Jae stood in the street watching it collapse, his knuckles split and bleeding, his shirt torn. Behind him, Park Sung-ho's men lay zip-tied on the pavement while police sirens wailed in the distance. Jae-sung was already cleaning the scene, making calls, ensuring the official story would be gang violence with no trail leading back to Min-Jae. But Min-Jae barely registered any of it. His entire focus was on the woman sitting in the back of the ambulance, wrapped in a blanket despite refusing treatment. Nia's lip was split, her wrists raw from restraints, but her eyes were clear when they met his. You came, she said quietly. Did you think I wouldn't? I thought you might choose the Empire. She pulled the blanket tighter. Park told me what he demanded. Half of everything you've built. Min-Jae sat beside her, careful not to touch her injuries. I didn't give him anything. I took her instead. You went to war. For me. Yes. Nia was silent, processing. The fire crackled behind them, painting everything in shifting orange light. Your father asked you to choose life over death. But you just created more death. More violence. The words hit like a blade because she was right. Min-Jae had led a tactical strike that left 3 of Park's men hospitalized and Park himself fleeing Seoul, with his operation in ruins. He'd proven he was still the monster everyone feared. I know what I am, he said finally. I know I can't change that completely. But I can choose what I fight for, who I protect, and I choose you. Nia's hand found his, her touch gentle despite everything. Your father didn't want you to stop being dangerous. He wanted you to be dangerous for the right reasons. To care about something beyond power and territory. Min-Jae looked at their joined hands, hers dark against his, both marked by survival. I've destroyed half my reputation tonight. The other families will see this as weakness. They'll test me, push boundaries, try to take what I wouldn't give Park. Then we'll face them together. She leaned into him, exhaustion finally showing. You taught me to survive in your world. Now I'll teach you to live in it. Behind them, the warehouse collapsed completely, sending sparks into the winter sky. Min-Jae thought of his father's final smile, the hope in those dying eyes. Dae-hyun had seen this coming, had understood that his son needed someone who would stay in the fire when everyone else ran. I don't deserve you, Min-Jae whispered. Probably not, Nia agreed, her voice soft with something like affection. But you're trying. That's what your father wanted. Someone who'd make you try. In the chaos of sirens and smoke, Min-Jae finally understood his father's last gift. Not redemption, not transformation, but permission to be both monster and man, to negotiate with his heart even when his hands stayed bloody.